Hello, this is Max Drake. I want to talk to you about freezer inventory app. It's more about general inventory, but I did a barcode scanner inventory app, and I've got a video on it, and the code's there for people to use with the barcode. Now, once I actually was able to actually populate the freezer inventory with all the data, I suddenly thought, well, that's only one step. You've actually created data, but you're not using that data, and you're not actually having it manipulated to actually a point where it's actually of any use at all. So what I decided to do with this video is about reporting on the app. So it's actually going in, looking at the information, and actually coming back and telling you something that you want to know. So I've tried to generalize some of the issues around this. So this is the inventory text that we've actually got. I've just chopped it down so there's a small amount of it through here. It's got a 5-digit code at the beginning, then it's got 3 lots of 2 numbers through there, so that allows you to put digits up to 99 through there, and in different quantities. So this one is, the first one's count, the second one's portions, the third one's containers. If it was a timber place, it could be meters for the length of the timber, it could be area for sheet sizes or something like that, or it could be weight, kilograms or something like that. So it was just making something more flexible that is just not specific if you can only do one thing in that. Now, the first thing I do is I actually take this data and I readjust it around to what I want. So all I've done is I've just gone into this data and I've just taken the code at the beginning, I've taken the non-zero number through there, and then I've got the description, and then I've also said what the non-zero is, whether it's a container, a portion, or a count. So that's some of the information that I've come through. Another reason why I've done this is that I don't want to mess with the original file. Now, if we look at the original file, I've only got one item of each. So if I update an item, what I actually do in this file here is I delete a line of data and then I rewrite it with the modified quantity at the bottom. And the reason I do that is so that if I loop through that file, it's a very short file to actually loop through. If it's 100 items, or this one's only 22, but if there's 50, 100 items, it's not as bad as if there's something you're adding a change with a new name on at the bottom. So suddenly that file would grow and grow and grow and grow. I wanted something reasonably efficient. So that was the logic behind doing it that way, of having it. So as I can go through and do the search items on these, I've got the items that I need to look for. Now I need to compare them against something. Now I need to compare them against things of other items. Now I want to use this thing here as an example. This is a near field communication, an MFC tag, and I've actually now just put my Wi-Fi code and login onto that, so somebody else can come up with their near field phone, swipe that, and then it'll just say, will you accept this, and they can then log into the Wi-Fi straight away at home. So I've been playing with those ones there. Now those I actually get, if I buy them in New Zealand, they cost $1 each. If I buy them in China, they cost 20 cents each. So I've got 20 of them, and so that cost me something like $4 New Zealand. But if but it takes snail mail, so it takes a month and a half to actually get here. Now I could pay another $4 or $5 to actually speed up, and so it comes more quickly or whatever. So one of the things that I need to do is, if I'm something like a shop, or not necessarily a freezer inventory, or maybe with a freezer inventory, I've got some exotic food that I quite like and I've got to order it from overseas. Therefore, my portion sizes, once they get to a certain point, I need to either pay a premium to get it here quickly, or else I've got to tag it before my portion sizes get too lesser, that I haven't consumed them all by the time it comes in the time that I order it. So therefore I need, in my compare point, each of the items that I've got trigger points. So once they get to a certain point, if they're above that, then they're fine. They're well within the bounds. I don't need to think about them. If they get between 2 bounds, like this is the upper bound, so this is between the upper bound and the lower bound, if they're in between there, we're okay. But if it gets below that lower bound, go and order them quickly, because you're going to be in trouble then. So this is one of the things. So if they're being bought locally, I can actually have some quite narrow bands, because I can just zip down the road and get them. There might be other ones. So there's certain things that are critical. Now also, if you've got doing something like a shop or something, or you have a certain popularity, people are coming for a few specific things. There'll be some which are more popular than the others. So those are the ones you want to make sure your inventory are in. they come in and purchase those, and they might purchase other things along the way. And those may be not as critical. So for the non-critical one, you may not need to report on if you don't need to. So we can manage how do we report on things which are non-critical in a way. We could go on to each of my 22 items or whatever of all the way through here and get all of those and do a coding, or else I could just generalize. So this was some of the thinking that I had behind the tool itself. Now, I started off with the original code, or the original text file that I've actually got. This one's here as a CSV in a way, and I've made a copy of it but modified it so that I can use that in reporting, because I didn't want to play with the original file. I wanted to play with the original file as little as possible because I didn't want to corrupt it or anything. So I've made a temporary file that I'm now comparing against, so I can go through each of those items and compare it against ones of my comparison text to see that I've got them. Now, if they don't match, I can actually have presets. You're suddenly thinking, well, they're things I bike locally and I can just go down the road and just buy them in the shop in next to no time. So those ones, I might have an upper limit of 2, if there's 3 of them, or a lower limit of 1 or something like that I can just react to, and they're just a generalized one. Then I've got the actual ones that I really want to compare and I want to make a report. So the first thing I do is that the file that I create from the record file, from my original file, I want to blow away what was there before so that I start off fresh each time I run this script. So I've got the record file, I rebuild it up in the way that I want the descriptors and everything put through, and it does the file append. Now, in AutoHotKey scripts, if you've got a file name and there's no file and you're appending something to it, if it's not there, it'll just create that file, which is really fantastic. So it just appends new information. So the first thing I do is delete the file, and then I do a file append, and it creates the file for me there. Then once I've actually created that file, I can then go through that list and just look at the code item specifically and then compare it against my comparison table. So I then go through, do a substring and break out the substring so I get the specific code coming through there, and then the item of the count number and the things like that. And then I can go through. Now, when I go through, I start off with this thing called line equals false, or line 1 equals false. So what it's saying is, if I found the string or the line which actually matches the code from my prelim file, then return that line of information. If it isn't, just leave it as 0. So false is equal to 0. So I can then go through is that I haven't got a comparison with my compare file. So if it's 0, I've got these presets. So I've got, if it's larger than or equal to 7, don't even think about it. I haven't found a match in my compare file, but my quantity is okay. I've got 7 or more of them. And I also report on what my actual quantity is. And then if it's less than 7, or if it's less than 7 and larger than or equal to 3, I'm okay, but it's getting low, so think about purchasing it. And then if it's below that, go and get it straight away. And then, so those are the ones where I didn't get a comparison, or I haven't set up my comparison ones where I need to compare against specific items. In the second one, I can now compare, because it's non-zero, I've actually returned a line of thing that I matched it against my code that I got originally as I'm looping through the file. I've now found the information that I want, and I'm going to return it, and I'm going to say, because those vary, the numbers vary in them, I can then check those against that. And then it goes through and does a check of that. And then it appends it to that file. Now it starts off with the report file on this one here in this whole string of stuff. It deletes the report file and then it runs it. So if I now run this file through here, you'll see this. So I'm going to run that now, and then I'm going to press F4, and there's my report file there. So there it is. So I've got a whole load of match not found because I've only got 4 or 5 comparisons. So these ones there. So what it's saying is it's returning the code. It's then giving you the description so that it's easily readable. It's saying they're portions and you've got 4 of them, and you need to get more now as it's less than 11, which is the trigger point at which time it's urgent that you get them. And the next one, I've got the description, so it's doing this. Now, it's not a particularly tidy, it's structured well, but it's not that easy to read. So we could reorganize this in a couple of ways. So that's what that file's doing. Now there's a couple of things that I just want to go back to the code just to draw your attention to at this point in time. Now, the original file, when we looked at that, you see I've got these items 0, 1, 0, 5, whatever, 11 stuff. Because I've got more than, I most probably might, at some point in time, I might have more than 9 of any item. So therefore, I'm going to go into double digits. So I've then got to have, so I can go up to 99 of anything. If I wanted more than that to go into the hundreds, up to the thousands, I can go up to 99 with 3 digits. But when I'm actually trying in the code to compare through here, if my variable, which I bring back, which is 08, is larger than or equal to OK, and if we just go and look at OK of what we're doing through there, where's my compare one through there, it's 25 or 11, and in fact I've actually left them as 0503. The reason why I've got them as 2 digits, then I know that I can come into item number 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and take those two and assign it to a variable. So I always know where those numbers are in that row of data, because they're of a fixed length coming through. So I can get those variables, but I cannot compare 08 to the number 8 or 08 to the number 7. So what I've got to do is use this absolute, and the absolute returns the absolute number value of a number. So if it's 08, it's going to return 8. So it almost converts a string into a number if it can do that. So it then says 8, and 8 is larger than 7, so it'll then look those things up. So in here, this one's got a thing which has got an 07, or it could be 11, in which case it's fine. And then I've got OK, which might be 05. But now it actually says compare 7 versus 5, because it's made them absolute. So that's one of the things I actually had to do with the strings of any of the numbers that I actually had to do. So I had to convert them back to do those sorts of things. So that's that part of the stuff. Now the second part is, that's one of the issues that I actually have with AutoHotKeys. It's aesthetically not pretty. And one of the things that you can actually do in here is that you can actually just go in and you can actually just open it in Excel. So because it's in Excel, it's a delimitated file, it's text file. We're just going to go in and we're going to say it's comma delimitated and next, and we're going to go finish, and it's going to open it up. And if we just highlight the headers through there and click on one of the joints in between, it spreads it all out, and you'll see that it's all nicely spread out into the right number of cells. So that's very easy to read. Not quite as we want it quite yet. So if we just go and insert a line up here, just because I'm going to apply a filter there, and then I'm going to organize, I could organize by, letters, so up here, so it brings up those, or I could organize by, I just organize A to Z on that one there. And now it says, look, these are the ones which I've got to get straight away. So I've now got that to do. Now, several things we've got to do that. So I've now got a file that tells me what I've got to action. So that's good. That's not very readable, and the other one is more readable in a way. But the other one is, it's just sitting in a file. Now, how was that file generated? So the next thing I actually just want to go through and talk about is a thing called Task Scheduler. A bastard. There we go, sorry. I'm having not a good day. Oh, there, it started off the task manager that I don't want. Go away. Oh, there we are. Task scheduler's coming up. So it's just going to go and generate all of those. Now, what you'll actually find, that there's one called Freezer Inventory there. So this one here is a scheduler. So this is a Windows tool that schedules tasks that need to be done. Oh look, I did actually have one before that as well. And that one there, freezer interested. So you can create a basic task. Now I'm just going to go through. So this one, I've just given it a name and I've given it a description of what it does. Then it has a trigger, and the trigger is I want it to occur daily at 6 a.m. or I can make it 9 a.m. or whatever. And the actions that I want it to do is I want it to run this script. Now, I just want to step back and talk about another couple of things inside this task manager. If we just go in and create a basic task, no, well, I'll stop there. So this, every time at 6 o'clock, it's going to trigger this script. But one of the issues that's going to happen at this point in time, the way I've got this script running at this point, I've just got to close these reports and things out, if you don't mind. Hold on a second. And it's important I have the report text there, and also in Excel that I close it out there. Don't save. If I now run this script here again, I've got to press S4. I'm just going to go into here, get the report file there, and delete it. Delete it anyway, but I want to demonstrate this. Now I'm going to run this script, but I've got to press F4 to run it. And then you see it's created the report through there. So it deleted it and created it, but it wasn't there to be deleted. But that's because as I'm debugging this, I'm using this F4. But if I want this to run automatically, so what's actually happened at 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning, it's going to start this program up and nothing's going to happen because I haven't pressed the F4 button. So what I need to do is actually take this F4 button. So I don't need anything activating this script. I need it to, I'm just going to delete that file there again. Yeah, go report to thing, and it's just been deleted through there. Now I'm going to run it again, and you'll see I'm not being controlled. It's just going to run automatically. So you need to make sure in your task scheduler that you're not using a hotkey or anything else to start that script off, that it does it automatically, then it'll run. So just be aware of that. Now, the other thing is it's just created a report and it's just sitting there. It's not doing anything. It's run the script so that you've got the most updated information. Now, how do I get it to myself? Now, this is another issue which I actually have with AutoHotKey script, but it's not AutoHotKey, it's a lot of other things here. Now I'm just going to go into here and create a basic task. So inside there it's going to think about it because I've got the video on. And when it comes to create a basic task, I'm just going to call it 1, 2, whatever. And then I'm going to go to next, and it's going to happen daily or weekly or monthly. And this is when it's going to happen at this particular time. I'm not really bothered. Now this is something I want to bring up. This one will start a program for me and it'll run that program or a batch file or something like that. But there used to be a send an email or display a message. So in the old days, I could have actually just said, send an email with that text, with that report on the end of it. So straight away every morning, 6 o'clock or 6:05, I say send me an email and get it there. There used to be a thing in AutoHotKey where you could actually run, it would create an email or let you run an email. I was trying those scripts on the forum and I couldn't get the blooming things to work. And then there was also one in PowerShell that was a script that you could actually do. But I think Gmail and a lot of the other ones have blocked those from automatically actually happening. So the only way I can actually think of that happening at the moment is to automate a AutoHotKey thing coming down, starting my taskbar manager down here, starting off my inbox through here, doing a write a message, going and finding the thing and doing an automated process through there. So that just seemed a bit tedious and an inefficient way of doing it. So this brings me to another point that I wanted to talk about. I've done a video on this now very recently, as in only a week ago or something like that. Power Automate Desktop by Microsoft is being free to everybody who's got Windows 10. So if you're running AutoHotKeys, you're running Windows 10. Now Power Automate Desktop is another automation tool similar to AutoHotKey. It is slow and slow and slow. I don't like it. I wrote a review on it and I was actually trying to build this particular script up, and in the end I just quit because I was just so frustrated with it. It was just so awkward. It just took so long to do. Also, another thing with the Power Automate thing, which I don't like at all, is you have your own personal one, but you can't share your files with anybody else unless you pay $40 a month. It's free for you to personally use. Now, when you save it, it saves it up to your OneDrive, but it saves it as this long string of things. So it isn't a file that you can share with anybody else. You can let somebody else log into your OneDrive, and if they got Power Automate, they can actually run that script or that you built up from there. It takes a long time. It's almost like building in a browser with a very poor Wi-Fi connection. It is very slow and tedious. But for small things, because it works in the Microsoft environment, it works with Excel and it works with Outlook and things like that, is that will most probably be able to take your report file, put it into Excel so it looks pretty, maybe filter it so that you've got it in organized thing, and then send it as an email through to you to do that. So that's the next part. You've made a report, you've generated that report on a frequent method. Now I need to actually get it where I can actually just grab it straight away, see it, respond to it, and react to it. So that's something that I just wanted to tag, and I might try exploring that. The other thing that I just want to bring up, when I was actually doing that, because I'm doing loops within loops, I find when I'm doing loops within loops, I kind of end up mathing up and things just don't quite, I get a mismatch of things, and then I get rubbish coming through in the data and you've got to step through it. What I've been doing in the past is that I've just been creating message boxes all over the things and then just displaying the variables. And then once I debug one part, I'd move into another part and start debugging all of that. Now, I'm using Visual Studio Code. I sort of learn about debugging, and then I just move on to something completely different, and then I forget all about it. And the next time I come onto it, I've forgotten it all again. And then I just get intimidated by it. So I go back to something really simple like message boxes. And you can see through here, there's just message boxes dinking all over the place because of the fact that I've been testing a whole load of stuff. Anyway, Visual Studio Code, I came back and I suddenly thought we're going to do the debug again. So I just want to talk about this because whenever I see people coding, they either assume you know all of these things, or they don't even talk about it and they just fire them up, and or they use different processes. So if I run the script of what it's running through here, I now come into the debug panel through here, and it's open a file we can be run and debug. Now, if I've got this one open here, I want to run and debug this one here. And then it says select an environment. So I'm going to select the AutoHotKey environment and run and debug. Now one of the things that I need to do is that I need to give a breakpoint. Otherwise it doesn't recognize, and I want to breakpoint in my loop. So it's going to run through and it's going to run and it's going to stop at a specific point. So we've selected AutoHotKey and I'm going to do run and debug. Oh no, it's done it again. Now why isn't that working there? I've got a breakpoint there. Now if I'm into there, no, that's not working. What it actually does, when I was in here, and I went into debug. Now it's just not going to do it at all. Oh, create and launch a JSON file. So in this part here, it's going to be in the AutoHotKey, and it creates a JSON file. Now here's this JSON file, and what it is it's just saying this is the configuration which you're testing against, and it needs to know the file name. So this is what I've been doing before, is I've just been going in and going into the one which shows all your files, finding the name of the actual file that I'm running on, which is that one there, and rename, and just go in the file and putting it into my JSON, and B, or blast Z, and putting it into there, B. And now I just save that JSON file. Now if I come back into this one here, run it, and then do the debug on it, I have got the, I'll put the debug there. So now if I run now I've got the AutoHotKey, I've got the debug on it, and I need to run the file there, and it stops at that breakpoint. Now it stops at that breakpoint, you've now got all of your variables. Now I haven't got any local variables, but all of mine seem to be globals. And so I've got a list of all of them, and they're either unidentified. So instead of actually having all these message boxes, which stop me all of the time, I can just jump over that breakpoint and then step through the rest of my code and see how the variables change as we go through. And then I can see what's actually changing. So with these loops within loops, I actually found this a hell of a lot better to use than the message boxes, because the message boxes just kept on stopping. You just have to keep on hitting enter, and especially with the loops, it's easier to do that. And this one runs to the end of the thing, and then it just runs through the rest of the code and comes back to the step point again. So if you've got something which is not quite reading what it needs to read, yeah, breakpoints are really what's saving you here. And then this lets you step through forwards, and you can step through backwards as well. So I haven't been using it, but after today, it's one of those things I've got to get a bit more familiar with and use a lot more frequently. It's like Git. I'd be doing a lot of commits to Git. I go off and do a completely different thing. I come back and I've forgotten how to do that, and so I can only actually remember a few of the string things to do, and so I'm not committing a lot of my stuff to Git, which I should be doing. So I hope that is also something that might be of help to you. So although the coding is quite simplistic as to what it's doing, it's just doing a few loops. It's more the thinking behind it of trying to make a bit of code that other people can utilize in a different way. And the other thing as well is that my daughter's doing this sort of thing, and she's paying a premium for other people to actually write this code for her. And you're suddenly thinking, well, I can actually write most of this thing as well. And AutoHotKey really does some very, very smart things. And, I'm actually really pleased with the result that this gives. And also the flexibility that I can actually start adding other things on. So I'll put the code up, and I'll put the video link to the original video about the inventory. As I said, it's a freezer inventory, and it's just an example, but you can adapt it to any sort of inventory as to what you want. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope that's been of use to you. If you found it useful, please give a thumbs up. If not, ot panyaha.